Hey there, everyone. It's Rob Ryder on Ascension Sunday, May 24th, 2020. Did you know that we're in the 10 days of darkness between the time Jesus ascended and the Holy Spirit appeared? That'd be 10 days, which the 31st will actually be Pentecost. So praise God. Maybe this is the year. Today we're going to be talking about WHITMER, NESSEL, and BENSON, Esquires, and their unauthorized practice of law and public officer impersonation. And if those names aren't familiar to you, well, Whitmer would be the alleged governor of Michigan, NESSEL, the alleged attorney general of Michigan, and BENSON, the alleged secretary of state of Michigan. And as we'll see, none of these people, none of these ladies use their full legal name. So they're impersonating an officer. And even the name that they're using in the state bar would show that they're engaged in the unauthorized practice of law. And eventually in this video, I'll get to the short complaint I sent to the particular branch they have in the state bar for unauthorized practice of law. A complaint against the attorney general saying that, well, again, she's not the attorney general. I hate to even call her that, but the alleged attorney general, claiming that, she is engaged in the unauthorized practice of law simply because she's not using her full legal name. It doesn't need to be any more difficult than that. I don't need to find anything else to complain about. I need to, in my mind, I need to say, well, that is the problem. I'm going to stay here and we're going to get this solved first before we worry about anything else that happened afterwards. Right? I'm not so much interested in the 10th thing she did wrong. I'm interested in the first thing she did wrong. And that would be to claim authority that you don't have. That's the first thing you did wrong. So this is kind of a wide-ranging video going in all sorts of different directions. So if you don't pay attention, you might wake up 5 minutes from now and not know what the hell is he talking about. I thought we were talking about this. Right, so anyways, it's how she goes. So in Michigan, we have a law, it's MCL, Michigan Compiled Law 600.916, unauthorized practice of law. And it says a person shall not practice law or engage in the law of business, shall not in any manner whatsoever lead others to believe he or she is authorized to practice or engage in the law of business, and shall not in any manner whatsoever present or designate himself or herself as an attorney and counselor, attorney at law, or lawyer unless the person is regularly licensed and authorized to practice law in the state. So we had three different entities here. We had an attorney and counselor. That's one style. Another style is attorney at law. That's another style. And then lawyer, which is another style. We're all saying the same thing, basically. Somebody that's both an attorney and both a counselor. Now, you don't have to have a license to be an attorney in Michigan, right? Or any place else, because I can get power of attorney to somebody, and they can represent me. What you need the license for is a counselor, because anybody who counsels people has to have a state license. So that'd be like accountants, doctors, psychologists, so forth and so on. They have to have a license, somebody who counsels somebody. And a lawyer would give you legal counsel. But they always try to act like they're just an attorney. Well, if they're just trying to be an attorney, well, then I can be an attorney. I don't have to have a license and so forth and so on. So, but, I'm saying, well, you can't do that because you're claiming to be a lawyer. And a lawyer is both an attorney and counselor at law. And a lawyer is both an attorney and a counselor. So, that's of interest. And then this other, right, from the United States Code, for United States Code 101, which I've shown in many videos, and you should really go download this and carry it around with you. In fact, I'm suggesting that after watching this video, you download this and you start sending it to everybody that you can think of that's holding an office and saying, brother or sister, if you don't have this oath, you don't have any authority. Because this is the oath that gives somebody in the state authority in the United States. And if they're not going to be in the United States, they don't have any authority over me because I'm a citizen of the United States. I am a 14th Amendment citizen, lowercase c, citizen of the United States. I'm not a U.S. citizen or a United States citizen or an American citizen. No, I'm a lowercase citizen of the United States as intended by the 14th Amendment. So that means I'm in the United States. If you haven't taken this oath, then you don't have any authority in the United States, and therefore you don't have any authority over me. See how simple that is? So what this says is every member of a state legislature and every executive and judicial officer of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, take the oath in the following form. To wit, I, Robert Allen Rutluski, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Now, again, they may have to take another oath because that's what it says to do in the state. Well, that's fine, but they still have to take this one because this is the one that gets the federal government to agree that you can have authority in the state as a state member of the state legislature or an executive or judicial officer of the state. So if you don't have it, then you don't have any authority in the United States or the state of Michigan, which, is where I am. Now they want to say you're in state of Michigan without the at the front, state of Michigan, which is really like it's a private organization of some kind acting as a corporation. When you look at their general liability insurance policy, it shows that their business is state government buildings. It doesn't say anything about state government. It's state government buildings, right? State of Michigan is a janitor service or a real estate service or whatever you want to call it, right? But it isn't the government. Well, that's what all the paperwork has at the top in Michigan. It says state of Michigan. It doesn't say the state of Michigan. It just says state of Michigan. Well, that's not the damn government. Now, you can use the word, the phrase, the term state of Michigan with the S capitalized, but that just means that's the organized state of Michigan as opposed to being the territory, federal territory of Michigan, which was the lowercase s, state of Michigan. So, it's one way to say, well, that's, two proper nouns coupled together by the word of, which is completely different than saying it's the title of an entity, which is what WHITMER, NESSEL, and BENSON are claiming, that, when they say state of Michigan, it's the name of an entity. And they're saying we're in their entity, and I'm saying I'm not part of your entity, your association, or whatever it is. I'm in the state of Michigan. And it's just not them. This is what all attorneys do. I don't care if it's in a federal court, state court, local court, whatever. If they're the judge, or they're the prosecutor, or they're your attorney, all these fucktards lie, cheat, and steal, and they don't use the name that they have registered with the state to be a lawyer or attorney at law or attorney and counselor. Right? They don't use their full legal name. They use the name of the middle initial. Well, then we're not in the state of Michigan, or we're not in the United States. Right? They've shanghaied you and took you to a parallel foreign venue, which is in the United States of America, which is King George's jurisdiction under the Treaty of Peace, 1783. And that's what the whole thing about the Constitution is. It was, okay, we're going to have a peace treaty. Okay, we're going to have people that still, loyal to the king. And then, the colonies or the states, those that want to have a republic, and we're going to have to share the territory and come to some kind of understanding, then, hey, we'll govern it by the Constitution. So what did they do? They, in the United States of America, right, King George's jurisdiction, what they have done is make sure that nobody takes this oath here to give them any authority in the United States. Now, this same oath, IAB, right, your name, do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States, is also the first law of the first Congress after the ratification of the Constitution, found in the statutes at large at 1 Stat, STAT 23, which in that particular act, it says everybody has to take this oath, from the president on down to the dog catcher, has to take this oath before you can have any authority in the United States. Well, that shit ain't happening, and so we need to be bitching about it. Right? So that's what this is. I do a lot of complaining and send a lot of complaints, and, my public record is me doing a video about it, and so here we are. Okay, so, hey, my email is for Rob Ryder is courtofrecord@aol.com, or my phone number 616-712-6179. If you could donate, or call it pay it forward or charity, I don't really care what you call it, but if you could send some dollars to PayPal to robryder@aol.com, or stick it in an envelope and send it to Robert Allen Bratluski, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast, Rockford, Michigan 49341, I could continue to complain to these people about what they're doing. And if you don't think that has any value, then I don't know why you watch my videos. But if you do watch them, then, if you could, please donate. And if you can't donate, that's no big deal, then, but do something. Start downloading for USC 101 and start sending it to your township, your county, the city, state cops, city cops, all of them. Whoever you can find an email address for, go to the meeting, or well, you really can't go to the meeting, at least here. We're still closed down on the 12th of June. But start sending it to these people and tell them, look, unless you have this oath, you don't have any authority. Right? You're just planting seeds. That's what this is all about, planting seeds of truth. With good men and women who, took a job, they don't know this shit's going on. Right? And, we need to slowly inform them. Some, and other ones, we just need to, be hitting them with a rod of iron. So, we'll get there. I guess I'm not quite ready for this yet, but Michigan Supreme Court rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. So, what I had found out, or, know this from before, but you think about it more after time, that in Michigan we have a thing called the State Bar of Michigan, and it's the place where all attorneys are registered and yada, yada, yada. Well, the Supreme Court, Michigan Supreme Court, has rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. So maybe instead of pointing out that they violated a penal code violation or, federal law or something like that, I'll make it about the fact that they violated a rule of the Michigan Supreme Court, because this entity that they have, the State Bar of Michigan, it's like it's like its own municipality. It's self-governing, right? But its government above it is the Michigan Supreme Court. So, okay, give me a second and we'll start rolling here. All right, so I don't know if you're new to my videos, or what I'm doing. Well, I do a lot of videos, and here recently I did one called "The Rule of Law is a Matter of Public Policy" that was pointing out that the various churches have these entities within the church. It's not really within the church, it's within the civil entity that the church has created, that deal with matters of public policy, right? And so here just recently, President Trump came out and he said he was going to order all the churches to be open this weekend. And then yesterday, a letter came out from right here. The Washington State Catholic Conference, which is, the Catholic Conference is the entity I was looking at in the video, because right on their website it says that I was looking at the Michigan Catholic Conference. It says the Michigan Catholic Conference is the official voice of the Catholic Church in matters of public policy. It's like, wow, that's the official voice of the Catholic Church. Okay, so then this is the official voice of the Catholic Church out in Washington. And so I'm going to take a minute and read it. In response to President Trump's statement today regarding church reopenings, the bishops of Washington State would like to provide a unified response. We want to let you know that the public celebration of Mass was suspended not out of fear, but out of our deepest respect for human life and health, As disciples of Jesus, we are called to be instruments of God's protection to the vulnerable and the public common good. Our love of God and neighbor is always personal and not partisan. While we share the desire to bring people back to Mass quickly as possible, we will wait to schedule our public worship when it is safe and we are prepared to do so. The bishops across the state are working through the Washington State Catholic Conference to engage the governor on a plan and reschedule for safely gathering, right? So that's what they should be using, is the Catholic Conference. Now, for Protestants who hate Catholics or the Pope or anything to do with Catholic, well, you have your own, right? And I pointed it out in the video. I'm just saying that here's an example of it being used, right, where the Washington State Catholic Conference is engaging directly with the governor. So, right, it is our understanding that these are in review of the governor's office now. So whatever they put in. Well, let me just read it. The bishops across state are working through the Washington State Catholic Conference to engage the governor on a plan to schedule the safely gathering based on expert guidance from the United States Catholic Council of Bishops, the Thomistic Institute of Public Health Experts. We created practical guidelines outlining how we can safely return to public worship while ensuring reverence and respect to the sacred liturgy of the Mass. It is our understanding that these are in review in the governor's office now. We look forward to his rapid response. So, there you go. That's making a proactive stance in a peaceful manner. Now, they could just as easily go and say, well, while we're here, Governor, right? While we're here, Governor, do you have proper oath of office? Right? Have you taken this oath right here? 4 U.S.C. 101. I, A, B, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Did you know, Governor, if you haven't taken that oath, you don't have any authority in the United States? Right? I mean, that's what, hopefully that's in their brief that they gave the governor, but that's how you could get it to him, is through the Catholic Conference, or each, denomination of the Protestant Church has their own. And I don't know if you saw the news clip earlier this week where the Calvary Baptist Church, a guy in Maryland, he's tearing up the stay closed order, which is probably the thing that got Trump prompted to do his thing. But as he's doing it, he's standing up there at the podium. I guess it's not an altar. I don't know what you call it in a Baptist church. But there's a gold fringe flag in the back, to his left-hand side of the court, church as you would look at it. So, he's doing it in front of the gold fringe flag, which is the flag of the military. It's an Army flag. Well, at least it's governed by an Army regulation, AR 840-10. Chapter 2, Section 3, tell you all about it. And, it says it can fly in certain places, and, it's an official flag. That's the only place it can fly. One of those places is a chapel, right? So back in 1917, all the churches created all the Protestant churches got together, and they created an entity. That entity was given a social status, or civil status, right? It became incorporated, and then it was given a charter by the military. The Catholics did the same, and so did the Jews. Well, World War I has never ended, right? There's never been a peace treaty, and so it's still going on, and all that stuff is still in place, and that's why there's gold fringe flags in churches, which means that church actually has more authority than any of those people know, because they're part of the military government. Right? We're under martial law. We have been since 1861. That's the evidence. You go into court, there's a gold fringe flag. Well, that can only fly in a military court. So if they're taking you to a military court, we must be under martial law. So now that courtroom may be used by different courts. I don't know, but that's one of its functions, right? So one of the hats that them judges wear is the hat of the military tribunal during a time of war in the United States. Because not only did not the World War I end, the Civil War never ended. There was only ever an armistice. And President Lincoln declared martial law 1861 in the District of Columbia, which makes it cover the nation, and that has never been rescinded. And according to the Lieber Code, Article 2, once martial law had been declared, until there's a proclamation or a treaty of peace, it continues. And that's where we find ourselves today. And so, the governor, your mayor, your township supervisor, the judge up there at the bench, the county clerk that takes your records, none of these people have taken this oath of office, and so they don't have any jurisdiction in the United States, and yet they're still, suppressing you. So either you're in their jurisdiction, or voluntarily, or you're there involuntarily, which would be enslavement. I say it's B. I don't want to be in their jurisdiction. I'm in the United States. I'm a veteran. Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Rutluski, U.S. Army veteran. All they can do is hold me as a prisoner of war. And someday the Army will come and set me free. Okay, hang on a second again. All right, so back to these videos real quick. So what you really should do, if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, is go back to at least Governor. I'm not judging you, I am prosecuting. Where I started to show that, the governor and so forth, these officers don't have this oath, and da-da-da-da. But I would actually say, hey, if you really want to do yourself a favor, you should go back to kerosene your keister and start there, and you would learn, the cures of the past that are being suppressed today. So kerosene your keister and the dose makes the poison. They kind of go together. And then governor, I'm not judging you, I'm prosecuting, and so forth and so on. And they're all relevant to what I'm talking about today. It's just, how do you talk about, 10 hours of talking in another video? All I can do is say you have to go watch those. And that's what I would suggest. So, okay, and what was this? Oh, this is at Michigan Catholic Conference, right? This is the one in Washington State, and it says be an advocate. Well, there you go. You want to get involved in Washington State, you can become an advocate and start advocating that the people claiming to be the government don't have the oath of office to have any authority in the United States. It was done on purpose. It was part of a scheme to keep them from having any authority in the United States. And so if these officers don't have any authority, then what article is it in the Constitution that says we're guaranteed a Republican form of government? We're being denied that because these officers aren't qualified. They may be governor-elect or whatever you want to call it, but they didn't qualify for the office, so the office is vacant. So, be an advocate, please. If you don't like the Catholics, well, go find the churches you like and say, go tell them what's going on. Or take it directly to the people doing the business. Alrighty. And in the name of public policy, and before we start bashing on the devil for the next hour or so, if you've never done it before, you should go watch a video like this one from Tu Sushi, who's a young black lady who's always listened to rap her whole life, right? That's all she knew. And now she's listening to the Righteous Brothers, Unchained Melody, for the first time. And she's not alone. There's all sorts of young black people doing this now. And they're listening to all this, all the whitey music from back in the day that I, grew up on and loved and, spoke to me back then. And, well, they're getting a dose of it now. And it's a wonderful thing. It's like, wow, that's public policy and work, right? God speaks through music. So that's the, private side public policy. The public side public policy is, well, go find a way to complain to the governor or whomever, the legislature, whoever it is, through the entity that handles your public policy. And then there's, people like me that, well, I'm just going to keep pointing out the things they do wrong until they're not doing them wrong anymore. That's my job. So let's go look at some things they're doing wrong. Hang on just a second. Okay. Yeah, I'm working. All right. So every state is going to have their version of a state bar of, mine's State Bar of Michigan. I'm not really sure which way they have the words, but it's where they list all the attorneys. Right, and in my case, let's see. I always find it easier to go here under members. And I go down to members directory and it says find an attorney. And if I go a little bit slower. Right, and you can go here and you can put in an attorney's name like, well, let's put in Whitmer, W-H-I-T-M-E-R. Which, hey, that's the same last name as the governor. Well, as it turns out, well, there she is, Gretchen Whitmer. Now, that's not her full legal name. Her full legal name is Gretchen Esther Whitmer. But this shows that Gretchen Whitmer is saying that she's a member of the State Bar of Michigan. Well, it's the same for, I don't know if you can see these very well, but this is Jocelyn Benson. That's the Secretary of State. Right? This is her, basically her business card, right, on the State Bar of Michigan website. So she's an attorney. Dana NESSEL, right? She's supposed to be the Attorney General. Yep, she's got one too. Sure enough. And there's Gretchen Whitmer's. So all three of these people are listed on the State Bar of Michigan website. And one other one. So is the Chief Justice, which she's using Bridget Mary, which that may be her, actually her, no, there it is, Bridget M, right? She's using the middle initial. It just isn't going to work, right? Her says full name, and she's got Honorable Bridget M. McCormick. Well, that's not her full name. Right? What jurisdiction is she in that she can change her name? That's not her legal name. Her legal name's been defined by federal law. In 6 CFR for Code of Federal Regulations, Part 37, to do with the Real ID Act, which talks about, what kind of ID you need to have to get on an airplane. They did suspend it for this year because of the coronavirus, but it was supposed to go into effect 2020. And, it would require you to take your birth records down next time you got an ID card, to get the ID card that would be compliant with federal law to allow you to get on an airplane. And they call it your full, F-U-L, full legal name, L-E-G-A-L, legal name. And they define the full legal name as your first name, middle names, last name, or surname, no nicknames, no initials. Well, there you are. She got an initial. So that's not her full legal name. In other words, this isn't the name that would be on her state ID or driver's license or whatever her identification card is. Doesn't have this name on it, so she's not properly identified. And that would be the same with all these Pop-Tarts, right? Jocelyn Benson has got a middle name. Dana NESSEL has a middle name. Gretchen Whitmer has a middle name. Now, whether you call it a middle name or not, you understand what I'm saying. Myself, I don't call it a middle name. I say I have a given name. My given name is Robert Allen, and I put that in the first name box. So anytime it asks for a middle initial or a middle name, I just leave it blank, right? But in the first name box goes Robert Allen. That's my given name. That's what's on my ID. That's what's on my birth record. That is my legal name. Now, I can use whatever name I want to, to call myself, but for legal matters, for identification, that's the name you're supposed to use. And this is the game they play. They don't use their legal name, so none of this shit's legal. They don't use your legal name, and they don't use their legal name. And then you find out where they really don't use the proper name of the court, and the clerk isn't using her name, and neither is the attorney using their name, and the prosecutor isn't using their name, and Register of Deeds isn't using their name, and the township coordinator or township supervisor is using his name, and on and on and on and on. Well, some of these people are attorneys also. Not everybody's an attorney, obviously, that's in government, but the ones that are, they have another set of rules they have to follow in addition to. And that would be this, so in Michigan then, it's called what the hell is this thing? Here. Right, this is the state, or Michigan Supreme Court rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. And so then these are the rules that, well, if they violate these rules, then the state, then they're in contempt of court, basically. And I think that's what it said in this. May have actually said that in this. Sorry, man, the button don't want to stick in the right place. A person who violates this section is guilty of contempt of the Supreme Court and of the Circuit Court of the county in which the violation occurred, and upon conviction is punishable as provided by law. Good enough for me. Now, how do we do that? That's what we're going to set to find out. Okay, so in these rules, and the State Bar of Michigan is an association of members of the bar of the state organized and existing as a public body corporate pursuant to powers of the Supreme Court over the bar of the state. So basically, as a body corporate, public body corporate, it's a self-governing entity. Quasi-self-governing. It's still under, it's under somebody else, but, it's a membership that governs itself, or an association of members that govern itself. So this is free association, right? It's under the First Amendment of the Constitution. The State Bar of Michigan shall, under these rules, aid in promoting improvements in the administration of justice, advancements in jurisprudence, improving relations between the legal profession and the public, and promoting the interests of the legal profession in the state. Okay, so improving relations between legal profession and the public. Well, then I need them to help make sure these people identify themselves properly. So what about the membership? Those persons who are licensed to practice law in this state shall constitute the membership of the State Bar of Michigan. Subject to the provisions of this rule, law students may become law student section members of the State Bar. None other than a member's correct name shall be entered upon the official register of attorneys of the state. So is the member's correct name Gretchen Whitmer or Gretchen Esther Whitmer? We need to have that answered. Each member, upon admission to the State Bar and in the annual dues statement, must provide the State Bar with the member's correct name and address, and such additional information as may be required. If the address provided is a mailing address only, like a P.O. box, the member also must provide a street or building address, a physical address, in other words, for the member's business or residence. No member shall practice law in the state until such information has been provided. Members shall notify the State Bar promptly in writing of any change of name or address. The State Bar shall be entitled to due notice of and to intervene and be heard in any proceeding by a member to alter or change the member's name. Oh, so if they were to put one name in the State Bar on their paperwork and then use another name and they didn't let the State Bar know, well, then the State Bar could have something to say about it. That's good to know. So the name and address on file with the State Bar at the time shall control in any matter arising under these rules involving the sufficiency of notice to a member of the propriety of the name used by the member in the practice of law or in a judicial election or in election of any other public office. So if an attorney wants to go run for public office, the State Bar has got something to say about what name they use. See how that works? The name and address on file at State Bar at the time shall control in any matter arising under these rules involving the sufficiency of notice to a member or the propriety of the name used by a member in the practice of law or in judicial election or in election for any other judicial office. Well, let's go see what kind of names they're using. Let's get some, documentary evidence here. So, how about judges' information? Right, here's the United States District Court, Western District of Michigan. Robert J. Jonker, Chief Judge. Thomas L. Dorwin, Clerk of Court. Well, that's not their legal names. That's easy to tell. But the chief judge isn't alone. Middle initial, middle initial, middle initial, middle initial. Ray instead of Raymond, right? That's not his full legal name. At least I don't believe it is. Please show me your state ID. Whatever name's on there is the name you got to use. I don't know about this one. Sally J, Ellen S. Right? So, hey, we'll leave Ray and Martine alone for a minute, and we'll clear the rest of them out because they're all, violating the law, and go back and start again. But it also says then on the same website, so this is on any website, right, that, and this is under attorneys, general information, as I remember. Certificate of good standing or duplicate certificate of admission. Well, let's just do it, just so we can make sure. Right. I went to attorneys, general information, and attorney admission and registration, and certificate of good standing or duplicate certificate of admission. And it says that the attorneys, right, they have to come and do whatever this page says, which means they got to file a frickin' basically an application, and the application hasn't put in their full legal name. Okay, well, from that, then you can get the certificate of good standing or duplicate certificate of admission. To obtain a certificate of good standing from the Western District of Michigan, complete this form and pay the associated electronic fee. Note that the link to the form will take you to PayGov, a secure payment site, or to the court, notify electronically your pay request. Okay, so I don't know if I could do it for an attorney, but an attorney can do it. I haven't tried it yet myself, but there you are. How about a duplicate certificate of admission, right? Which is the thing they would have got for the first thing they did, right? They got a certificate of admission. To obtain a duplicate certificate of admission from the Western District of Michigan, complete this form and pay the associated fee, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so that's all simple enough. Well, here we have some examples of that being done. Let's see what we had here. So here is a letter saying that please let this letter serve as confirmation that attorney Dean Edward Rittberg was admitted to the United States Court, Western District of Michigan. Right? So he was in his full legal name. Well, from the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan, which, it's, again, this says state of Michigan, so that doesn't really seem right to me, but it's what they did. Dean Edward Rittberg. Right? They're not using the middle initial. The guy with the full legal name is the guy that was admitted. But when he fills out paperwork, he does it as Dean E. Rittberg. Right? And this is what they all do. They all use a middle initial name. If you go look at the byline on any paperwork submitted by an attorney, it's going to be in a middle initial name. And in fact, so now Dean E. Rittberg, who's not authorized to practice law, because that name isn't on the roll, is doing it for Daniel M. McDermott, whose name isn't on the roll in that name, because, if he's another attorney, well, then he would be Daniel, whatever his middle name is. And so this is the shit they put in. Every piece of paper they put in is a simulated legal process under color of law, which violates your civil rights under 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, or 42 U.S.C., whatever sections that is. I can't remember the section numbers. But this is a simulated legal process under color of law because they're not using their legal names. And they don't use your legal name. Right? So, there's some examples. And here's a Court of Appeals of Maryland certificate of good standing for Susan Stevens Miller. Right? And she's also, in the D.C. bar as Susan Stephen Miller. But I'm sure if we were to look, to see how she put her paperwork in. It's not as Susan Stephen Miller. I don't know if this had anything in there or not. Did Susan? This was just somebody asking for this stuff, as I remember. Susan Stephen Miller, Esquire. Yeah. She used it right there. Susan Stephen Miller. Where is... Right now, it looks like she did it right, right? So it can be done right. It just isn't always done right. I guess it depends on who they're working for. Okay. So, back to the rules. So, the name and address on file with the state bar at time shall control any manner arising of these rules. So, it'd be good to get that record. You got these different membership classes. So a person engaged in practice law in Michigan must be an active member of the state bar. In addition to its traditional meaning, a person engaged in the practice of law in this rule includes a person's license to practice law in Michigan or another jurisdiction and employed in Michigan in the administration of justice or in a position which requires the person to be a law school graduate. Well, that would be a judge, right? To be a judge, you got to be a graduate of law school. And to be administration of justice, well, right, administrative branch isn't the judicial branch. It's like the governor or attorney general or secretary of state or, the administrative branch. So if you're a judge or if you're an attorney and you're going to take a position in the administration of justice, like as the governor, right, the one writing the executive orders, or the attorney general calling the Trump a petulant child, or the secretary of state that's supposed to be keeping all these records that show these people have some authority, well, they need to be doing it if they're a member of the bar in a particular manner. And I say they're not doing it. So if they're inactive for more than 3 years, they need to obtain a certificate from the Board of Law Examiners. Keep that in mind. They got to have that piece of paper also. So we're going to find, hey, they got to have done a few things, and we can make a list of what they're supposed to have done, and it looks like we may be able to get the records for it. That's where this is headed. So, and then they have to pay dues, right? Well, once they paid dues, now they're in a union shop. And it says, where did it say that? Let me go find this thing then. It may not be quite that easy. Hang on a second. So in Revised Judicature Act of 1961, Act 236 of 1961, Chapter 9, Attorneys and Counselors, talks about the state bar, and then it gets into the constitutionality. It says the state of Michigan, which that would be the proper name, unless they're just capitalizing the because it's the first word of the sentence, but the state of Michigan is the proper style of name for the organized state that was created in 1835. The state of Michigan, through the combined actions of the Supreme Court, legislature, and state bar, may compulsorily exact dues and require association attorneys to support those duties and functions of the state bar, which serve a compelling state interest and which cannot be accomplished by means less intrusive upon the First Amendment rights of objecting attorneys. So, by them joining this association, they're giving up their First Amendment rights. Right? So, now the state bar, or the state of Michigan, which, that's where we are, can compel them to do the right thing or, kick them out of the frickin' union shop. That's what the membership does, right? Because they took the paying the dues, they agreed to the terms. Board of Commissioners then, right? So this thing is really run just like, a township. Got a board of commissioners. right, that can do all these things, appoint standing special committees on, hey, guess what, unauthorized practice of law. And then, at the request of the governor, the legislature, or the Supreme Court, or on its own initiative, conduct an investigation in any matter relating to the state's courts or tribunals, to the practice or procedures in them, or to administration of justice, and report to the officer or body making the request. And so these are the reasons I'm saying, well, I need to do something based on this, these laws, or not these laws, these rules of the State Bar of Michigan. And try to get this board to go investigate the fact that when these people go to court, they're not using their full legal name. Well, one of the things that they did then is that this Board of Commissioners did set up a committee to do with the unauthorized practice of law. And so one of the things I'll show is, the thing I sent them on the person claiming to be the Attorney General of Michigan. Representative Assembly is the final policy-making body of the state bar. So, right, the Catholic Conference or any other conference that says that they deal with public policy, right, should be going and talking to the Representative Assembly because they're the final making body of the state bar. Right, and get these rules written exactly the way we want them to be written to make sure that the attorneys are, following the frickin' law. And not just custom because they can get away with it because we don't know what to do about it. We make the wrong complaint to the wrong person, they don't pay attention to it. It's not that we're not right, it's just we didn't use the right words and give it to the right person. No person holding judicial office may be elected or appointed as an officer of the Representative Assembly. Yeah, I get it. Okay. Executive director. So then they appoint an executive director. Check. They're run the day-to-day business. And then you got admission to the bar. A standing committee on the character and fitness consisting of 18 active members of the bar shall be appointed annually by the president of the State Bar of Michigan, by the president. Right, so which is one of the offices, that elected offices. They take somebody from the commissioners, and they have their own internal voting and pick one of them to be the president. Okay, that's simple enough. So state bar, da 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 da. Just a little bit too much to read today, but finally we get down to this procedure for admission, oath of office. Each applicant to whom a certificate of qualification has been issued by the Board of Examiners is required to appear personally and present such certificate to the Supreme Court or one of the circuit courts of the state. Upon motion made in open court by an active member of the State Bar of Michigan, the court may enter an order admitting such applicant to the state or to the bar of the state. The clerk of such court is required to forthwith administer to such applicant in open court the following oath of office. And it gives the oath they have to take. Right? So the applicant is required to subscribe to such oath of office by signing a copy and to register membership in the State Bar of Michigan in a manner prescribed by Rule 2 of these rules and to pay the required dues before practicing law in the state. The clerk shall record such admission in the journal of such court and shall preserve such oath of office and records of the court. A roll of persons admitted to the bar shall be kept in the office of the clerk of the Supreme Court. Admission to the bar of the state is an authorization to practice as an attorney and counselor in every court of the state. So, this is what they have to do to play the game. They got to get a certificate of qualification for this Board of Law Examiners, which was talked about somewhere else in more depth in these rules. And, right, and then an active member of the State Bar of Michigan has to file a motion with either the Supreme Court or one of the circuit courts of the state. And then based on that, the court has to decide if they're going to issue an order or not admitting the member to the bar. And the clerk of such court is required to administer this oath. So where's all this paper at? Where's the motion? Where's the order? Where's the oath? Where's the certificate of qualification? Where is all this paperwork? Well, we're going to go try to find it. Rule 16. The State Bar of Michigan is hereby authorized and empowered to investigate matters pertaining to the unauthorized practice of law and the authority of its Board of Commissioners to file and prosecute actions and proceedings with regard to such matters. Well, what would those be? They would be people who didn't do this. Right? So anybody who didn't comply with Section 3, Procedure for Admission, is engaged in the unauthorized practice of law. And part of that is for them to have complied with Rule 2. And Rule 2 is the rule that said they had to use the correct name. All tied together. Nice little package right here in these 19 pages. Okay, well, how about the confidentiality of state bar records? I want to see some of this paper. Well, except as provided below in Rule 15, or as otherwise provided by law, records maintained by the State Bar are open to the public, pursuant to the State Bar of Michigan's Access to Information Policy. So this doesn't have anything to do with FOIA. This is the State Bar of Michigan Access to Information Policy. They have their own policy to do it. And then records and information made confidential can be released, and it gives the reasons like the Attorney Grievance Commission or Attorney Discipline Board in connection with investigation, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Well, what does that say then? Here's the policy governing access to records of the State Bar of Michigan, and how'd you find that, Rob? Well, what I did is I went here and said, well, okay, let me go ahead and copy State Bar of Michigan Access to Information Policy and throw it into Google and see what it gives me, and it led me to this. It says the State Bar of Michigan is a public body corporate that serves as an arm of the Supreme Court. Well, that makes it part of the government, pursuant to the Supreme Court rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. Well, that's what we just read. Supreme Court rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. The State Bar does not receive tax dollars, but instead is supported by dues, payments, and its members, and from non-public dollars. This policy is established to conform State Bar of Michigan record access policies to Administrative Order of the Supreme Court, 1997, number 10, which I've asked for. I couldn't find that, but you should be able to find this order. Okay, well, if you're going to do it by this order, where's the order, right? And this is a matter of go find the thing you're looking for and go ask for it. Reviewable records mean administrative, employee, financial, or member records. Administrative records mean normal business records of the State Bar of Michigan other than an employee record, financial records, or member records. Well, okay. And employee records are people that work for the State Bar of Michigan, which I'm not so interested in, but I may be later. And financial records, well, that can wait till later. I'm not looking at it from the money aspect. But I am interested in the member record, right, which is going to give the member's name or names, their address, the name of their firm, the business telephone number, the fax number, the admin day, the P number, the status, the committee, email address, so forth. And then they make a point to point out the definition of person. It means an individual or a public, private, or government entity. Person does not include any individual incarcerated in a local, state, or federal correction facility of any kind. Right now, they have you incarcerated. I believe that's what they're going to say, right? So when I did this, I didn't do it as the individual. I did it as the private entity, Robert Allen Rutluski, the business, right, that has the EIN. I've shown before that I have an EIN number for my name, right? In fact, I'll show it again. Hang on just a second Right? I showed that you can go on the IRS website. I did a video back in December 2017, EIN and SSN in your name. But don't use the form or the process I'm showing. Unfortunately, I was using the form somebody sent me because I had already done it on the IRS website, and you can't go back and do it again, right? So I couldn't do screenshots. But you can do all this right on the IRS website. And this is what I did is as a sole proprietor, not as, limited liability or anything else. No, as a sole proprietor, I got an EIN number, 8236544127, for my business, Robert Allen Retluski, right? Whose owner is Robert Allen Retluski, and they share the same address. But this is a business, right? This isn't me now. This is a business. I'm an employer. I have an employer identification number. This EIN will identify you, your business accounts, tax returns, and documents, even if you have no employees. So eventually they'll send you this thing called the 147C letter. I may have had to ask for this. I don't remember. I did ask for it, but I think you can get it eventually. Anyways, and they'll say your employer identification number is, right? Please keep this letter in your permanent records. Enter your name and EIN and all federal business tax returns and all, or related correspondence, right? So on any tax returns I have, I would use this name, right? I wouldn't use the name of the middle initial. So, that's why, I did this, because back in the day, I would get mail from the IRS in the name Robert A. Retluski. It's like, well, I'm going to get them to agree that that's not my name. And they did. Right now, I'm doing business with the IRS as Robert Allen Retluski. Robert A. Retluski does not exist. That's not my full legal name. Okay. Okay, so this is that rule that had to do with the, what rule number is it? Actually, Rule 15. This rules for the State Bar of Michigan, where it talks about procedure for admission, oath of office. And it says, applicant to whom a certificate of qualification has been issued by a board of law examiners. Well, can you get that? Well, as it turns out, here's the board of law examiners, right? They have an email address for information. And so, if you read what it said, that, let me make sure I go back this thing here. All right, each applicant to whom the certificate of qualification has been issued by the Board of Law Examiners is required to appear personally and present such certificate to the Supreme Court or one of the circuit courts of this state. Now, I didn't say they're going to give it to the state bar, right? And so if you go get state bar records, well, you may not get the certificate. But because they do have their own entity, Board of Law Examiners, there it is. So that's what I did. All right, requesting a copy of a certificate of qualification issued to Gretchen Esther Whitmer by the Board of Law Examiners. Please send by email to robwriter@aol.com. I just did it over the weekend. I did this yesterday, so we'll have to see how they respond. But, that's what you do. You find something to ask a question about, send the thing out, see what comes back. It doesn't cost any money. And if you're sitting at home with nothing to do anyways, well, get busy. Okay, so upon motion, so they have to take that to the Supreme Court or one of the circuit courts. And upon motion, and really there's only supposed to be one circuit court of the state, right? That's what it says in the Constitution. That we have one court of justice, a Supreme Court, appeals court, a circuit court, probate court. So it didn't say circuits, it's circuit. Right, the circuit courts. So upon motion made in open court by an active member of the state bar, so wherever they took it, either they went to the Supreme Court or they've gone to one of these circuit courts, the court may enter an order admitting such applicant to the bar of the state. The clerk of such court is required to forthwith administer the oath. Okay, check, check, check. So Either it was done at the Supreme Court or it was done at the Circuit Court. And the applicant is required to subscribe that oath, then register with the State Bar of Michigan in a manner prescribed in Rule 2, using their proper name and address, and pay the required dues before practicing the state. The clerk shall record such admission in the journal of the court and shall preserve such oath of office in the records of the court. So the journal and the records aren't the same thing. Right? So where's it at, clerk? So in other words, you should be able to copy this page out, go to the clerk of any of the circuit courts in Michigan and say, show me these records. I'd like to see the journal. It's supposed to be public record. They should have to show it to you. But they're all closed down now because, hey, we got coronavirus and we're shut down to the 12th. So, again, it's one thing to say it, another thing to do it. But, right, the admission to the bar of this state is an authorization to practice as an attorney and a counselor in every court in the state. So how are they doing it? Now, for instance, here's the 17th Circuit Court, which is supposed to be for Kent County. Right? So you should be able to go to the 17th Circuit Court clerk and tell him you want to see the journal and see the orders for any attorney. If you were going to this court, right, any attorney who's practicing there either had to take his paperwork here or to the Supreme Court. Or they have to tell you what court they did it in. At the end of the day, well, then what court did you do it in? But if you're looking at all these judges, right, middle initial, middle initial, middle initial, middle initial, middle initial, middle initial, first initial, middle initial. These people aren't using their full legal name, so they're really not doing this in the state of Michigan. They're doing this in state of Michigan, which is not the sovereign state created by Constitution 1835. So I don't really know who they are, right? But all I know is I'm going to go to the state bar and start bitching about them, because that's where the state of Michigan is supposed to have some authority. Okay, so in the rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan, membership says none other than members' correct names shall be entered in the official register of the attorneys of the state, and so forth and so on. And that they have to take certain papers to certain places. It was down here in these last rules, right, where each applicant is going to take the certificate of qualification from the Board of Law Examiners and give it to the Supreme Court or to the Circuit Court that they go to. And then apparently after that, then somebody has to file a motion, right, who's already an active member of the State Bar. And the motion would be to have the person admitted, right? And then the court can then issue an order. So those would be court records. And then the clerk is supposed to take and administer this oath. And then once the oath has been administered, the dude's supposed to sign it. And then go register with the State Bar of Michigan. It doesn't say they're going to sign and give this to the State Bar. They're going to sign the oath with the clerk and then go register with the bar. So how would the State Bar know if that actually happened unless somebody goes and checks to see if it did? That's what we're going to do. Right? And then, so then the clerk shall record such admission in the journal of the court and shall preserve such oath of office in the records of the court. So unless the clerk has done that, then the dude or lady really doesn't have any authority. And if they do, they need to be using their full legal name. So these are things we're going to be checking on. And so now, why is that important today? Well, I have been, doing some FOIAs. Hang on. Get this in the right order. All right. So in the Constitution of Michigan, 1835, the people of the territory of Michigan, lowercase t territory, did some things, and when they got done, they mutually agreed to form ourselves into the free and independent state right? That'd be the proper case state, by the style and title of the state of Michigan, right? So that's the name of the government, the state of Michigan. Now let's go look at what actually happens when you do like a Freedom of Information Act request or similar. Got the one. So here was, actually let's start here. So I sent one to the Secretary of State, and this is the first time I ever got an answer back where they had signed in red. I've had them in blue before. I don't remember if it was the Secretary of State, but I'm almost positive it was the Secretary of State's office. This is the first time somebody ever used red. I think that's significant, but I don't know exactly what it means yet. But I do know this, that when I'm looking at this and it says State of Michigan, it's like, well, that's not the government, right? The name of the government is the State of Michigan. Jocelyn Benson is not this lady's full legal name. She got a middle name, and she's an attorney, right? But she's claiming to be the Secretary of State. Robert Allen Retluski, which that was good. And then they did call me Robert Allen, right? So I guess we could say, well, we're keeping it common, then we're keeping it private. You could call me Robert Allen. That is my first name. So, and they did not call me Mr. That's good. But then she goes on to say the Michigan Department of State, which is the department. Right? Now, nowhere up here do we have anything called the Michigan Department of State. Anywhere, right? You got Department of State, Secretary of State, State of Michigan, but not Michigan Department of State. Has finished processing your request for records received pursuant to some other, and so basically what I was asking for was the oath of the Attorney General and her bond, which had to be per a particular section of the election law given to the Secretary of State's office. Your request is partially granted as to existing non-exempt public records determined to be responsive to your request and denied. So partially granted and then denied. I have attached a copy of the most recent and only oath filed and the oath of the Great Seal regarding Dana NESSEL, Attorney General. The remainder of your request is denied based on my certification that the Bureau of Elections does not possess public records matching your request, such as bonds and issuance of office, a Great Seal, is not the filing official. In other words, you're telling me this person doesn't have the proper paperwork in to be the Attorney General according to the election law. Okay, so, you know, they told me that the person pretending to be the Attorney General isn't, but they're also telling me that Jocelyn Benson is simulating a legal process as the state of Michigan. So what's that all about? We'll find out soon enough. But then I did another FOIA request, right to the Attorney General, which again is from state of Michigan. It's not the state of Michigan. And it's Dana NESSEL, which is not her full legal name, but it's to Robert Retluski, which is not my full legal name. So this is a simulated legal process. Right? This is official business, as far as I'm concerned. And then they said they were going to have to split my request in half, which they did. And this is what I had been asking, that according to this section of law, it says the Secretary of State shall file in his office and preserve the original statements and determinations of the Board of State Canvassers, all the results of the election, and shall forthwith execute and cause to be delivered to persons thereby declared to be elected to the office of Secretary of State and Attorney General, certificates of election certified by him under the Great Seal of the state. So I wanted to see the certificate of election that they had given to the Attorney General. And, you know, it's they're telling me they wanted to wait. But they did send me her oath, right? So this is the oath they say that qualifies Dana NESSEL to be the Michigan Attorney General. Well, you can see that it doesn't say I, state your name, AB. So while this may be another oath this person would have to take if it had been done properly, this isn't the oath required by 4 U.S.C. 101, And so until 4 USC 101 is satisfied, there's no reason to anything else to exist. So this doesn't satisfy 4 USC 101, therefore it's not an oath of office. This is what they sent me, and it doesn't make it. But, you know, she's doing it as Dana Nessel, and that's not her full legal name. And it was done by a notary, but a notary cannot do the oath of office of an attorney general. And if you look at here, if it's the name of the notary, they're supposed to fill this information out, right? And so there should be a commission number here. Then it says expires, and that doesn't have the colon behind it. So you say, well, it's two different lines. Well, no, they could have put commission expires. They're doing this on purpose, right? Because there should be a commission number, but there isn't. And all this says is my commission expires on this date, but it doesn't tell you what the commission is. I'm saying they should have had the number here if it was going to be a notary. State of Michigan is the improper venue. County of Ingham is the improper jurisdiction in an improper venue, because the proper venue is the state of Michigan, and the county and the state of Michigan is Ingham County, not County of Ingham. This thing's got all sorts of errors in it, right? So, well, because of all that, and because of what I had found, that they have this unauthorized practice of law complaint form, I said, well, let me file a complaint that way. I did another one, sending it directly to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court we'll look at, but I wanted to try this because the things we had read earlier in the rules. And I said the non-lawyer's name is Dana Nessel, because it's Dana Nessel that's complaining to be, or complaining, it's saying that they're the Attorney General of Michigan. Right? She even had letterhead made up for her. Dana Nessel, Attorney General. I'm afraid, Dana, that that's going to be the unauthorized practice of law. And what's her address? I don't know if I use this address here or not. No, because it was only a P.O. box. So I went online and found the address for the Attorney General's office and used it. And describe your complaint. Well, I said that Dana Nessel, unauthorized practice of law as Attorney General of Michigan, offends the Michigan Supreme Court's rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. Right? That's what she's offending, is the rules concerning the State Bar of Michigan. Not some Michigan compiled law or federal law, or no, just the rules. Because that's what these people have jurisdiction over, is the rules that govern the State Bar of Michigan. Dana Nessel is not the correct name of a member entered into the official register of attorneys of the state. And she has not provided the State Bar the correct address of the Attorney General as required by Rule 2. Dana Nessel, impersonating as Attorney General, offends the rules as to the propriety of name and address used by a member of the election or in an election of any public office. And that's just this stuff right out of Rule 2, right? That no other than the correct name will be used, and the name and address on file with the State Bar at times shall control any matter arising under these rules involving the sufficiency of the notice up to a member of the propriety of the name used by the member in the practice of law, right? So as an attorney and counselor, attorney at law or lawyer, whatever term they want to use, or in a judicial election as a judge, or in election of any other public office, such as an attorney general. Okay, well, if she had to put her correct name on the paperwork, then Dana Nessel's incorrect and she violated Rule 2. And that's what they said they had jurisdiction over, right? That any matter arising under these rules. So bring up whatever it is you have about these rules. Now, I'm doing it about her as the Attorney General, but I could just as easily have done it as her as an attorney in a court case. Right? That she still didn't put it in, whatever name they're using, because normally what you would see in a court case is a middle initial, right? So that would be the name of the non-lawyer, the middle initial name, and whatever address they're using, and whatever that name is as an unauthorized practice as an attorney or as a lawyer, right? So you just tailor, well, guess what I'm saying? I'm making this about the Attorney General, but you could easily tailor this to be about the attorney in your court case. So whatever their fictitious name is, impersonating as the Attorney General offends the rules as to propriety name or address used as a member in election to any public office. But they could have said, middle initial dude impersonating a lawyer offends the rules as to the propriety of the name and address used by a member in the practice of law. I think that's what it said. Yeah, it gave three things. Propriety of name used by the member in the practice of law, that's one, or in a judicial election, that's two, or in an election in any other public office, that's three. Practicing as an attorney, sitting as a judge, acting as a public officer, like the Attorney General. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Dana NESSEL is not the correct name on any certificate issued by the Board of Law Examiners, because the Board of Law Examiners will only issue it in their full legal name. Now, I don't have it yet, but I'm going to say that, and all they have to do to prove me wrong is show me, well, no, we issued it to her as Dana NESSEL. Until they do, I'm correct. Dana NESSEL is not the correct name on any motion to admit or court order admitting a person to the bar of the state. Right? Now, that's, again, we're just doing what the law says. And it said down here that they had to do it per Rule 2, which would mean use the proper name. Right? This is all the things for procedure, for admission, and the oath of office. Right? Not the correct name in any motion to admit or court order admitting a person to the bar of the state. Now, again, all they have to do to prove me wrong is have the clerk produce the motion and the order. Dana NESSEL is not the name subscribed on the oath of office sworn in open court by a lawyer prior to practicing law in the state. Right? Because she'd had to use her full legal name. Dana NESSEL did not register membership in the State Bar of Michigan and pay required dues prior to practicing law. And no admission of Dana NESSEL has been recorded by a clerk in the journal of the court. Now again, Dana NESSEL is her improper name, right? This is the name of the non-lawyer. This isn't her full legal name that it should be. This is the name that she's using. So in your court case, it's probably somebody with a middle initial. But in this case, she's just not using it at all. And I think her, I know her middle initial is M. I don't know what her middle name is. But she does have a middle initial. Fill that out. My name, my contact information. I was doing it online, so I just, if you ever find these forms like this form wasn't the kind you could immediately fill in the blanks. If you come over here and hit fill in sign in, it will allow you to do these forms and fill in the blanks. So that's what I did. And then what did I do? Did I find their email address? Authorized Practice Law Department? I think I did. Yeah, I found their contact information and I sent it by email. Is that what I did? I believe so. Let's go look. More sent. Yeah, here we go. I sent it to, I don't know, some people I found that were on the board. I think it was, whoever they had, the chairman of the board and the vice chairman, and then the person that's in charge of the, like the counselor for the Unauthorized Law Division. State Bar of Michigan Unauthorized Practice Law Department. Complaint that Dana NESSEL is engaged in the unauthorized practice of law as an imposter, usurper in the elected office of Michigan's Attorney General. I sent that last night. Now they get a chance to, they won't do anything with it, I'm sure, officially till Tuesday at the earliest. But it is in there. And, good for me. Let me go show you the other one I did, since I'm doing public record now. Hang on a second. So really, before I had gone back and read those rules for the State Bar of Michigan, I had already been on the Michigan Court's website, and it's Michigan Supreme Court, it says here. And then you look at the seal up here in the left-hand corner, right, this one here. It says the State of Michigan, right? It's got the right name on it. It doesn't say State of Michigan. Now, if you watch the governor, or WHITMER, when she's in front of or behind a podium, it just says State of Michigan. Or it doesn't say anything. In fact, I got to show you one, because that's the idea here, is to actually show the evidence. So hang on. Okay, so here's WHITMER behind State of Michigan. And it doesn't have anything on the bottom. But on the wall of the Supreme Court, it says the State of Michigan. I think they're working in different jurisdictions, right? And this is the one I say I'm in the State of Michigan. So therefore, WHITMER, you can't keep me in my house. And if you do, well, you just made me a POW because I'm a veteran. But it's an act of terrorism either way, as defined under the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act of 2002 as amended. It says that if you are any act to coerce the citizens of the United States is an act of terror. And if it was certified thus by the Secretary of Treasury, well, then you could collect insurance payment on your general liability insurance. Crazy stuff, huh? You have to watch some videos I did if you want to know more about that. But so, right, this is her, State of Michigan. Well, and this is us, State of Michigan. So I wanted to complain about that. And so what I did is I did an email and sent it to the Michigan Supreme Court. So went on this website here with the Supreme Court, found the clerk's email address, roll of attorney email address, any other email address I could find. Right? Michigan State Court clerk. So, Michigan Supreme Court employee, I invoke my veteran privilege, ensure this petition for the redress of grievances is delivered to the Chief Justice for her action. A signed copy is attached with an image of the counterfeit oath of office of WHITMER and NESSEL, which is what I was complaining about. And I've done them already about WHITMER, and I've sent those to the Michigan State Police, which is in my last videos, but this had to do with the Attorney General. Quasi-Attorney General. Wishes she was Attorney General. But she's not the Attorney General. So this is what I had to say. So to the State of Michigan Supreme Court, and I sent to the Michigan State Police, Emergency Management, Homeland Security Department. So the citizen's petition, Jane Doe is impersonating as Michigan Attorney General, must be captured. I, Robert Allen Bretluski, DOD ID number 12112800006, swear that a belligerent using the alias Dana Nessel is impersonating as the Michigan Attorney General. This petition includes the information requests I sent and reply I received regarding the oath and bond of the incoming Attorney General, required to be deposited with the Secretary of State in accordance with Michigan law. The document I received in reply to my request counterfeits an oath of office and simulates a legal process in offense of the Constitution of the United States and laws of Michigan. The name Dana Nessel is not the legal name enrolled on the Michigan Roll of Attorneys. The name Dana Nessel is not the identification on a state identification or state license. The proper venue is the State of Michigan, not State of Michigan, a corporation. County Ingham is not a subdivision of the State of Michigan. Ingham County is. The text of the oath does not comply with 4 U.S.C. 101 or Michigan Constitution 1963. The office of notary is unqualified to administer state officer oath of office. Alleged notary failed to provide notary commission number. The accompanying reply letter is itself a simulated legal process implicating the Jane Doe Jocelyn Benson and her conspirator, Dana Nessel. Because, both of them said they were from the State of Michigan and they used a, they did not use their full legal name. I have previously made the Michigan State Police aware of the deceit of Gretchen Whitmer in her impersonation as governor of Michigan, but for the benefit of the Michigan Supreme Court, I am including an image of the counterfeit oath filed by her, which has the same style error as NESSEL's. Every act and deed of the three stooges, Whitmer, NESSEL, and Benson, is an act of terrorism intended to coerce the citizens of the United States residing in Michigan and to influence the United States government by coercion. These belligerents have caused great harm to the United States. For the people of the state of Michigan, which is one of the United States, by the way, I petition the Michigan Supreme Court issue warrants for the arrest of the belligerents by the Michigan State Police to free the state and people in time for the people to enjoy a perp walk over Memorial Day weekend, and that the Stooges Act of Terror are certified in accordance with the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act of 2002, as amended. And, well, there you go. Then I sent, the copies of the email I got and the shit that it said, and, well, state of Michigan, that's wrong, and so is Jocelyn Benson. She's got a middle name. And this oath of office is wrong, as I've already shown, as is this oath of office for the governor, which, again, they don't say I, state your name, A-B, right? So where this could be another oath they have to take, and they could say, well, I did take an oath, here it is. It's not the one I'm looking for. The only one to worry about today, until it's been put in the records and is done properly, is this one. Every member of a state legislature and every executive and a judicial officer of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute duties of his office, take an oath in the following form. To wit, I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, which is also the same oath in 1 Stat 23, 1 STAT 23, and apply, which requires everybody from the president on down to take this oath. Okay, well, here you are. So I threw one through the window into the, to the Chief Justice. I'll put it all on her shoulders because, like I said, it looked like she was using her full legal name when I looked her up on the state bar. Right? And this is an administrative matter. This isn't judicial. And she's the chief administrator of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is the thing that has jurisdiction over the state bar under its rules for the state bar. And I'm making my complaint, well, not this one, directly. If I had known at the time, I would have, but I added that in here because these are the same things your attorney in your court case is doing, right? Whatever the name is, middle initial is not a legal name, and it's not the name on a state ID, and state of whatever is not the proper venue. Text of the oath does not comply with 4 U.S.C. 101. That's all the same. It's going to be the same for both of them. So if they don't have that oath, I mean, even a attorney has to take this oath, right? If they're taking an oath to the Constitution, they have to take this one. And they may have to take the oath that we saw in the rules, but they still have to take the, I state your name, do solemnly swear I'll support the Constitution. Okay, well, all these are in now, and we'll see if it leads to anything, but that was my job today, was to do my public service announcement on Ascension Day, May 24th, 2020. If you're still watching, I'd ask that if you can, please do donate, pay it forward, or call it charity. You watched me talk for an hour and a half, throw a guy a bone. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and everyone have a great, wonderful day. And happy Memorial Day, veterans. Our due is coming. Oh, by the way, veterans, I will say this. Trump did say that he's just, fired like 8,000 people from the VA. That's a lot of people. There were a lot of bureaucrats in the way, and maybe now we should go back and try to get things that we've tried in the past and been denied. I have to save all that for another video, but I'm just saying, you know, that's another thing he said, other than opening the church, is that he's, you know, got rid of a lot of dead weight in the Department of Veterans Affairs. And so we should see what we get them to do for us. Okay, very good. You all have a great day now. We'll see you.